Happy Monday. Welcome back to Retake the Week. It's been a quiet 7 days. Really, when I reflect upon it, I look at the notes, I see what events have actually happened. It's been rather chill. We've had a fair bit of online CS, some with some big teams, some with some small teams, and some, I think, somewhere in between. But it's been fascinating. We've got a new Spirit Academy player that everyone's getting overhyped about. We've got some roster moves to talk about, especially the big one that's in the title. We'll be addressing the first matchups they played in. But let's begin with, I think, the most important part of each episode. Let's thank the members. Now, the members get access to bonus content, such as the King's Court interviews, the behind the scenes, and of course, VODs from the live streams, especially the Prospect of the Week VOD, which is sort of cut down into essentially a mini Prospects episode. Mini, not really necessarily in length, but certainly in production effort and value, I think is fair enough to not call it a full official episode, but it is, in my opinion, pretty extensive in terms of what it covers. So I've been really happy with how that's been going. But yeah, most importantly, the members support the show, support the channel, allow me to monetize, or pay for rather, certain features such as putting it up on Spotify every week, which I might have forgotten last week. It was a busy 7 days, just for me personally. So yeah, hopefully this episode will be going up there on schedule. Let's get into the show. Quack. Busy week? Up to anything good?
Yeah, pretty much. I went on a trip to Eastplay's new gaming center was unveiled in Norrköping, and I was invited to come, so I did, and I wrote a fun little article with a bunch of pictures, and you should go read it. I think right now it's one of the better performing articles we have, which is just me tooting my own horn. But yeah, if you go to Fragbite, it's one of the recent ones from Saturday, and it's got some cool pictures. I think that was pretty good. I was pretty happy with those pictures. And yeah, it's a nice vibe. It was a really cool place. It's like they opened it in the original Inferno Online, like the place where the first Inferno Online was made, and then they had to shut that Inferno Online. But they used those same spaces to make this, and it's the same kind of thing. It's got 12 spots for like 12 PC setups. It's got a streaming booth. But then it's situated like in a bar where you can play pool, where they have like pool tables and stuff. So you can do that. You can play pool. You can get some food. You can get some drinks. You can play darts. You can play shuffleboard, karaoke, like all of this. So it was a really cool place, and we had a really fun time. And I went to the biggest O'Leary's I've ever seen in my entire life. It was I think it was situated like in a mall, but the thing is, like, the mall, half of the mall was O'Leary's. It was like 4 floors and a rooftop terrace, which was as big as it's
all that
insane.
for an Irish chain pub.
Yes, because you go in and it's like you go up a set of stairs and there's a wardrobe. It's a pretty big wardrobe already. It's like the size of it's a really big like wardrobe.
A wardrobe?
You know. Yeah, like you come in and they're like, hey, do you want to get your coat checked?
Oh, a cloakroom. Okay, right.
We call it a wardrobe. And
okay, yeah, just for
it's
reference.
already pretty big. Like
okay.
It's already pretty big. It's like 3 staffers are there to, obviously receive a shit ton amount of people. Then you go up another set of stairs, and you have this entire floor, and it's a huge bar, like gigantic bar, and there's a dance floor. There's a bunch of tables. It's a huge space, and then, we sit down. We get our drinks. Then one of the guys who we met at the gaming center comes over, and he's like, "Yo, you should come upstairs and sit with us." And he goes into this entirely other room where all the bowling alleys are, because that's what you have at an O'Leary's. And then it's another ass big space, and then there's another staircase with another ass big space and a rooftop terrace with exactly the same amount of space. Like this O'Leary's could probably host 10,000 people. It was insane.
If anyone ever feels the need to have that large of a banquet in specifically an O'Leary's,
Norrköping.
Yeah,
a city of less than 100,000 people. Like you could never fill that place.
I can't imagine it ever being full. Like it's just ridiculously big. And I thought O'Neill's in Chinatown was an unnecessarily large kind of Irish themed establishment, but this is monstrous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, I guess that's our first Counter-Strike adjacent topic, is your adventures or misadventures in Norrköping. I've heard some things. Certainly some people seem to have some misadventures. during that event. But yeah, shall we get into the biggest topic of the last week, which was, of course, the Blast Bounty. It was the online stage, sort of the group stage. We'll start with our Blast Bounty winners. I think it's fair to say some teams came out of this happy with, their positions, their wins. Some teams probably a little more miserable. I'm going to start with a bit of a, I guess it's not so much controversial, but just a bit of a weird one, where I think Heroic, just having beaten Complexity with a stand-in AWPA and with the way they've been playing recently, is a very minor win. A very minor win. For it to have been a full win, I mean, to be fully gassed up, kind of excited, I'd have liked them to have beaten Aurora, or at least taken a map. But the fact that they, despite the stand-in, despite how poorly everything else has been going so far, just, getting things up and running with a new core, new roster, new style of play, it has been some difficulties. I do think this is a minor victory. It's close. We're edging back and forth between victory and loss, but I think this is just good enough to satisfy me. I don't know about you. You probably have a lot of thoughts on this Heroic debut with Scrob in the place of Grix.
Yes, I would say it's a win. I was gonna place them here. I think that Complexity game should have been a loss. There's a lot you can say about the way Complexity play these close sort of games. B-Tramps pointed out that they are the worst team in the world when it comes to close games in every statistic. It's down to like, if you win 10 rounds against Complexity, you have a 73% chance of winning the map, is I think what the stat was over the course of the year. Yeah, it's Complexity only win. I'll just read out the stats because they're funny. So they have a 27% close game win rate. So that's any game where both teams, it gets to 13-10 or 13-11 or overtime. So both teams win 10 rounds minimum. They have a 27% win rate in those games, which is abysmal. They have only a 56% maps won after leading at halftime, which is like, they win the half and it's still 50-50 if they're going to close the map, pretty much. And the worst one is when you have close maps where they are leading at halftime, so where they have the lead and then it eventually goes to at minimum 20 rounds, I guess, or whatever. At minimum, both teams having 10 double digits. They only win 10% of those. So like if you get a good start to the second half, you have beaten Complexity. But yeah. Anyway, that's beside the point, because it's still a win for Heroic, and I think specifically it's a win because they didn't win. They didn't win in spite of Scrob. In large part, they won because of Scrob. He was playing very well, especially on that overpass map, which was one of those where Complexity was leading at halftime and lost at 13-11.
Yeah, they were leading 8-4 as well. They had a strong CT half. I remember watching that and seeing the score and being like, "Ooh, that's not good. That's not good for the T side of Heroic." Questions when they then go and pick it into Aurora. Questions that were swiftly answered by, yeah, that was a terrible fucking idea. And they got absolutely smashed on that first half. Again, an even weaker T side. But no, to have actually converted on their CT half against Complexity was good. Like I was fairly happy with what I saw from Scrub. I'm still not like a Scrubber. I'm not a Scrub believer like fully yet. I'm not completely bought in, but he could have had a far worse first attempt with the main roster. That was always an option, that he completely shits the bed, just makes a mess of it all. But no, he played okay. And he had a pretty strong half to sort of highlight that all on the overpass against Complexity. So, no, I think the Scrub part of it wasn't necessarily what drew me to this this Heroic side having had a win. I think it's more that they just got big production from Tanir and Nilo in that series.
Yep.
For me, that's going to be the ongoing question, the ongoing theme for Heroic is, can they actually use both of these guys at the same time and well? Like, have them both performing, not necessarily doing the exact same thing, because I'd hope they'd figure out roles for each of them, but just being productive and active, because both want to be and both can be very effective when they are.
Yeah, it is like partially it is just the fact that Scrub. A lot of the time when you have a stand instance like this where you need to throw somebody in, like Mouse had Xelix coming in, it sort of feels like they're playing 4v5 and there's a second guy there who's just trying their best because you put no pressure on them. Like when you have a player like this, Scrub had no pressure on him in this game. Like you weren't probably it would have been no problem if they lost the complexity for him and for the team. It's like they made this decision knowing that this event was maybe sort of a write-off, and but he still delivers. And a lot of the time, it feels like you're playing around that player and you're playing 4-on-5. But Scrub delivered, and he played solidly on Overpass, and he played solidly throughout the series as a whole. He can disappear against Aurora, of course, as you do, because they are a much better team than Complexity. But it's it's solid, and yeah, it's a good win. I'm not sure what I think about going forward. We're going to talk about the Alcarin move a bit later, but to me, it feels a bit weird.
Yeah, I think we are going to get into that. I've got a lot of thoughts on Alcarin right now. Not really sure. Yeah, I guess we'll get into it, but I have a lot of thoughts just on the Alcarin front and the Heroic front. What happened with Grix? A lot of speculation, obviously, because I don't actually know, but from a CS perspective, I have some takes. But, all right, another winner, a huge winner. Virtus Pro. Coming out of nowhere. I mean, the first win against MIBR, you're thinking, well, whatever. MIBR, Virtus Pro. It's two teams just racing towards the bottom. Anyone could have taken them. But then go and play a series with FaZe and win. Not just win, but win in the way you'd want to win right now if you're this team, where you get huge output from Flit, especially, but also Fame shows up. Icy, doesn't exactly put up crazy like damage numbers and things like that, but he performs the way you'd hoped he would. And you even get something out of Electronic. Like, Electronic doesn't shit the bed as well, to the point where you could have Perfecto, your support, your fifth, not having a great series, not putting out a lot of damage, not putting out a lot of frags, and you still take the win. I think for them, this is a huge success, just as far as an event run. To qualify for the LAN finals would have been a bit of a reach as a goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is a pretty lofty target for them, given how they've played recently. And especially going into that FaZe series, I kind of wrote them off. Didn't expect it to go well. Turns out FaZe would only have one player really turn up. I mean, this is one of the weaker Frozen series I've watched all year. He's been fantastic. Wasn't present here. But Virtus Pro take full advantage. They've been able to lose series where teams have played worse than this FaZe team did. And yet they still managed to get it won. So I think for Virtus Pro, this is another one of those sort of turnaround series. There's another team I think who fit this theme we're going to get to in a sec, but where they've had a really awful run and just this might be the start of the turnaround. It could be that simply when they come to LAN again, they'll play terribly again and it'll all fall apart, but just at face value, huge turnaround. Yep,
and it's a good win for them as well because they are one of the teams who have actually claimed a bounty here in the second round. This is something we don't really think about the Blast Bounty, but their prize money has increased. It is the entire
concept. Yeah.
It is the entire concept, yeah. So right now they're sitting pretty good. They don't have... their own bounty is not that big, obviously, since they are one of the lower ranked teams, but they have claimed, joint with Astralis and Liquid, they're the only ones who have claimed anything at this point, which is very solid for them. And that actually does matter. Like that's another $19,000, which is going to get tacked onto wherever they end up finishing. And that's... for VRS reasons, very good, primarily, because that even if this is weird online LAN thing where the VRS implication isn't huge, it's still gonna matter quite a bit. So yeah, now we're ending up in the quarterfinal, semifinal. Have they picked the opponents yet?
I don't think so, but quite an important thing I'm just going to tack on here is we're still unfortunately. Every time we see VP have a strong event or strong couple of games, remember like the during the major. And we just come out of it thinking, they didn't really change their style that much, though. They just hit the shots this time. Because if you check again, the average time alive for every player on this team, including the entries, is 1:20. They just keep playing this sort of glacial pace. They are the sort of cemetery doom of Counter-Strike teams of just, it's so slow and agonizing. And just like the genre, like there's very few occasions where it's actually good. And we remember those highlights, but Lord, can it get dull and monotonous otherwise, and especially when there's no success at the back end of it. You'd just rather have not gone through it all. So I'm cautious about getting too excited. Maybe they will just work themselves back into form playing this style and, you know, being themselves in that sense. But it is weird that this style just still their go-to as a roster.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that might be that, you know, Flamus didn't really fit that style, perhaps, is what we've sort of come to conclude here. And instead of changing their style to fit the team, they changed Flamus to a player who might fit that style. But yeah, it somehow keeps working. In the end, this is a skill team with skilled players. I think to a degree you can play almost any sort of style, and sometimes you are going to hit the shot, sometimes you are going to be performing well in that sense, and that's when it's going to work out. So in that regard, it is quite solid. It's something you can work with. But yeah, I'm not overly hopeful for these LAN games to come. They haven't picked the opponents. I did just check. I just remember that they do draft that on site, like the day before. I think they do like a stream where they're all standing in a circle and they get to pick. I think they have second pick here. I think Liquid would have first pick, and I think Liquid are they have to pick between Vitality, Mouse, Spirit, Mongo. So it's probably Mouse or Spirit for VP, I would assume. So yeah, it's going to be a rough go of it. But yeah, so far it is a win. It is a win. But it's also one of those where I feel like, yeah, it is a win, but it's like, if they didn't change anything, what does that win even mean going forward? Like, does it change? Does that change anything for VP? Are they better now? Or was it just fluky?
Look, individual performance is always going to dictate a lot. You know, Counter-Strike, it is about the strategy, the approach, the style, but it's also about execution. And if you execute on it, who cares? Who cares if the style maybe isn't optimal, maybe isn't up to meta, maybe isn't yada, yada, yada. As long as they win, as long as they hit the shots, as long as the players have winnable fights, or at least win the fights, doesn't matter if they're particularly winnable, you're going to be a good enough team. And so we can have our sort of almost philosophical disagreements with it. Like, we can say it's not how they should play. Doesn't matter if they do it and win. So, look, that's the eternal conundrum with VP. We see these little glimpses where it works, and you think, oh, have they turned it around? They then shit the bed at the next two events, and you're like, oh, okay, never mind, they should change the style. And eventually they make a roster move, and we repeat the process. I guess that seems to be what we're stuck in right now with Virtus Pro. But I guess it's still a win. Like, they were not expected to make this run happen, so have to give them that credit. I think the final one that we somehow disagreed on initially earlier in the day, Liquid have to be taking a win from this. I don't care how certain aspects of it looked. Furia is not an easy team to beat right now. And sure, Ecstatic, they struggled to put away, but they still put them away. That's what matters. And one of the things they struggled with when they lost, for example, to VP Prodigy, were those close rounds, were these sort of like big decisions in these late round moments. They constantly made the wrong read. They constantly had the wrong sort of post-plant position. They had a terrible comms going on, so you've got players just dying for nothing. The fact that they overcame at least those sorts of problems that they had previously online just to beat Ecstatic is good. The Furia win was just a legit win, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, the argument I was making is sort of that I felt like the Ecstatic win is so bad, where it's again, like, nothing changes. Liquid are still dog shit. But they won this game. Well, like, they did. And it's almost a curse more than a blessing that they won the game. Because, yeah, it just keeps the cycle going in a way. But my other argument was that they have always beaten Furia. But then when I actually looked at it, that's mostly from 2024. That's a different Liquid. That's a different everything.
Yeah.
So, and it's a different Furia. So for that, I'm going to take away. And yeah, I think it is still a win for Liquid in that case. But
I was
it
sorry,
doesn't
just
look
on that
sustainable to me,
topic,
and that's
I
the
saw
issue.
I saw the post that someone put out. I think it must have been HLTV talking about how Liquid always
Yeah,
be beaten
HLTV.
Fura. And I remember looking at it thinking, I didn't look it up at the time, but I was like, I cannot remember the last time they even played. So
No,
how
they
relevant
played this
is
year.
that?
They have played this year in March, but that was before Molodoi, before Yekindar.
In March,
And
that's what I'm saying. That's so
it might have
long
been
ago.
before Shui, even. It might have been before Shui. I don't remember the timing. So
Well, he was post Kato, so probably was. I'd say it's more likely it was Shuhei.
no, he was away for a while. Hang on, let me look this up. I think it might have been like yes, Furia, and their last game was the start of March at the ESL Pro League. No, it was JKS. It was pre-Shui,
Okay.
pre-Molodoi, and pre-Ekinder. Yeah, it's irrelevant.
It's
so for that sense,
entirely
yeah,
different
that'll
teams.
take away. That'll take away, and I do agree with you now. Yeah, that is a win for Liquid. In the way things are looking, I just still think it doesn't look very sustainable. You're not getting that much out of Nerds, especially in that ecstatic game. He's nowhere, and that's worrying. I'm not overly impressed by Ultimate as a whole. He was also solid. I'll give him a lot of credit for the ecstatic series. I was actually surprised positively by the fact that he at times he looked like he was the only guy who was trying. I think somehow everything is just flipped, and for this fall season you're getting a shit ton of stuff out of Naf all of a sudden, which is great to see. He was so down in the dumps last season, but so far this season, I feel like we're getting so much more out of Naf every single game. Like the games where they play well, Naf is one of the guys playing well, which is good for Liquid. And then Twist is Twist. I think Twist is always going to deliver in a sense. So it's very weird, and it's weird for me to see where they're going to go.
Well, for
if I'm also
the
looking
point, it's hilarious. He hit his all-time low basically during the Cologne main event, like 0.59 rating, sub 0.4 KPR, truly abominable. But then post Cologne, he's played 2 online events, performed well at both, and I'm like, these are very limited samples. Like he played well against VP Prodigy, and he played acceptably. Like he didn't play like a star like he did against VP Prodigy, but he played well in the Blast Bounty matches, and I kind of had to be like, great. This is obviously a much better sort of output level, far better production, far better NAF fly than I got in Cologne. I'm just a bit like, has he lost his ability to play on LAN? Is that the issue? Are we going to go to Blast Bounty LAN and see a 0.3 KPR NAF again? Like, that could be a real problem. That could be stinky.
A lot of the Cologne games where they had the play-in games, which is still not like the worst opposition there, but in some of them he was really showing up, so I don't think that's bad. It's more so that even if he's underperforming in those games, we weren't even seeing these good points, which we've seen in the game against FlyQuest, for example, or in the game against Pain, in that play-in, where you get a decent level out of NAF. Yeah, honestly, the Pain game is so even between all of the teammates there on Liquid. It's hard to point out NAF specifically, but like he would be 0.8 in that game if it was the spring season. So that's solid. It's better, and it's weird how like he was on the edge of maybe not even being on the team in the fall season during the major, and now he's not the biggest problem on the team anymore, which has been a good joke. But yeah, it's a win for them. It just doesn't feel good for me. A weird thing for me with Liquid as well is that right now they're outside of major range because they are only on the European ranking at this point. And right now they are not going to be in the major, and it's actually going to be like it's some ways away. Honestly, when you're looking at it, it's VP are on the edge, and they are 16th when you project like the decay and everything, and Liquid end up being 21st. Right now they're behind Fnatic, Colsey, Ecstatic, and BetBoom to make the major. They're about 200 points off, and that's very difficult. But it would be very easy for them to make one player change for Nerds or Ultimate or Shui, but he just got a new contract, and just slot perfectly into the into the Americas ranking, because there they have about 150 points too many to make it into the major, or more than they need. and they could even make it into stage 2 if they get just a couple of decent performances. So for me, I'm thinking, is there like, that's something I feel like they should do. Objectively, that's something they should do, even if the team gets worse. But you want to make it to the major. And
yeah, we had that sort of offline topic. Like we brought it up. We're like, why? What case can you make as like Team Liquid management to not?
Yes. And it doesn't even have to be like at this point. I don't think they might be able to snatch somebody who's like on the edge here of making it into the major, like somebody from. It doesn't have to be an NA player. It could be a South American player as well. But something like something from Imperial or a Blue Jays, whatever. I don't think you want that. But you have some decent players sitting just outside invite range. You have Bestia right now, way too far outside. I'm just looking at like a Tomashin. Like just get a Tomashin in there, see what happens. Wildcard sitting outside at the moment. You could make like a move for Shui for Stanislav. You could make that, but I'd probably rather look at something like a Peeping. Or I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's great, but it's gonna work for the VRS. Similarly, like Huaso Peak, like he's been fine. If you want somebody who's probably going to get into that spot and deliver a half decent level, you could get like a Lucan. He's experienced. He's got a decent floor. Because 9C are also outside of invite range at the moment. So it's these sort of things, like it's difficult to make this happen and to make sense of this. But there's ways to make it. And I think even if it makes the team worse, I think it's worth doing just to make it to the major and, play there. You unfortunately can't do the sub thing. Like you can't put in an American and then sub nerds back in, because then that's against the rules, because you change the regional belonging of the team. So you can't even make that happen. But yeah, it's wild. So Liquid, the way it stands, Liquid are not going to be at the major, which is wild to say. Especially when you contrast to the fact that Blue Jays, as it stands, are going to be at the major.
Yeah, that's actually kind of insane. But no, I actually do like the idea of getting Tri for Ultimate. Yeah, if you're going to do anything with like some North American, or Americas rather, players, bring Tri to the major. Like that's
yeah. The difficulty is Tri is already in the major. He's on Imperial. They're also looking to be invited.
Where's the cutoff? Is it 7th?
Or is it 8th? On the
Americas,
when
Imperial at 8th.
They have 10 spots, 10 American spots.
10 American spots, so fucking Peeping isn't an option by that logic.
He is an option when you project it, like with the decay. When you go on the VRS invite, like the way the points have decayed until October, if nothing changes.
So it's basically a pointless thought exercise, because who knows what the hell's going to have happened until then.
No, yeah, of course, but Occam's razor, if nothing happens, then
yeah, but just because it's the simplest doesn't mean we should rely on it, because obviously things will happen.
In theory, this is the way it will look if things continue to go the way it's been going. The teams who are lower on the projection are the ones who had more success earlier in the season, which is going to decay quite hard. So, and haven't had recent success, because the ones who have recent success are still high. So that's why you end up with stuff like Astralis are currently 5th on this projection, and they're set in Europe, and they're set for a stage 3 invite. And Iberian Soul are set for a major invite because they won Epic LAN. So those sort of things.
Yeah. Okay. Let's winners. Let's tick some off who are just obvious. Vitality, you didn't drop a map. Good job. I mean, Astralis is actually something to talk about because they beat Na'Vi. But I'm just talking about the actual obvious ones. Like Mouse, you won. Oh, good. Okay, get you out the way. Done. Winner. Spirit, I think it's a win, but I think there's more to it, because they won with a bad donk.
For the first time ever, Donk has won for the first time in Counter-Strike 2 on the main Spirit team. Donk has won a series where he was sub 1.0.
Yeah, that's fucking wild. Like, for them, that's a huge win.
It has never happened. Yeah, the last time it happened was against Mouse NXT when he was on Spirit Academy in May 2023. Which is
just for reference. Which that's ridiculous. This roster is, look, top heavy. That's been obvious. And when I watched the Mirage against G2, I straight up thought they were losing that series. straight up. Like, the way Mirage went, you know, how effective the entries were for G2, how a lot of the time, you know, they knew the sort of positions Donk would take up and just double, triple swung him. And he had no choice but to die. Like, even taking one was difficult. So, I thought they were doing a great job off the back of that one map. And then going into Ancient, I thought G2 would win that and then probably, hopefully, win Dust too. Because I thought, you know, with the momentum, they finally actually convert upon it because, you know, they did lose Mirage in the end. I thought, you know, that sort of momentum would build and they'd take the series 2-1. Instead, map 3, finally also Dust 2 is where Donk has some performance. But Shiro just, he kept getting better. Like, he had a really strong series. Didn't start that hot, but by the end was, well, wouldn't say quite vintage because he's had a lot of different versions of himself, but a dominant Shiro, the kind of player you need to close out that series.
Yeah, it's for Donk. I think it's partially a Cologne hangover. They got out of Cologne and started prepping for Blast Bunny just with a couple of days' notice. And as we all saw, Cologne was a very big event for Donk. Also, like personally, the way he reacted to the win, the way he's spoken about it afterwards, where it's like winning that event was like he put everything into it. So I don't think it's that strange that you get a little bit of a hangover for these couple of online games where it's also like a weird big contrast where like you go from the biggest stage in the world to sitting in your bedroom and playing, where that's obviously going to feel strange. And yeah, so I don't think it's indicative of anything, but I would actually say that's a win that they managed to get that match win without Donk, because that's like, it's not like Donk hasn't had bad series before, is the thing. It's rare, but he does have series where he ends up below 1.0. It's not the first time he's dipped below 1.0. It's the first time they've won with Donk below 1.0. Because that's the team have been unable, like entirely unable to make that happen when he dips below that. So for them to make that happen is a solid win for Spirit in particular. And particularly for Shiro and Zontix, obviously.
Yeah, Zontix, of course, the player much maligned by spectators and analysts alike, and for good reason. There are times where he is a problem. His good qualities do sometimes get overlooked, though. Some of us who do watch demos, try to talk about this sort of stuff that he does well, we try to give him his flowers, but it's not often flashy. As I put it, I think during one live stream, he's never the POV, basically. When you expect the big play to happen to come next on Spirit, you're not switching your camera over to Zontix. You're more, waiting for Donk to do something, hoping Shiro's got himself in the right position. But Zontix does a lot of things really correct, basically. He's consistent. He's in the right places. And sure, his mechanics frustrate you, because you're like, if he could aim at the head, we'd probably be seeing a lot more impact. But when it comes to converting on the easy kills, when it comes to just not making mistakes, it works for him. Time and time again. And his spray is pretty strong, so it all ties together nicely. The things he does well, it's just not flashy. And it's just not particularly very fun, I think, is the weakness he has. But no, in this event, they needed someone, well, especially that match, they needed someone solid. I mean, Mirage, he didn't crumble, where some of the others on the team did. He managed to keep it together and, honestly, drive them home, which is quite important when Donk is completely missing. You needed those trades, you needed those closing frags that he was able to find. So, no, credit to Zontix. Spirit winning in a way that isn't just donking. And I think, they're still looking good going into the playoffs section. I just don't think, despite how rampant they were in Cologne, they still don't feel like they're going to be solid favourites. I still feel like we're going to be talking about Vitality. We're even going to be talking about Mouse. And Spirit will be there in the conversation. It just doesn't feel like they are going to be number one, which is what you'd expect, having won Cologne in the way they did it. You'd think they'd be number one, and comfortably so, but it just isn't the case right now. It doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah, we'll see on the LAN stage. Like a lot of this entire event can be hand waved away with. It's a weird online game, and we're gonna end up on LAN. and we're gonna see good teams square up against each other. And yeah, I think you end up with a weird thing in this event where the top end of this event is always gonna have the best opposition, because you end up with when the lower ranked teams get to pick their opponents from the upper ranked teams, you're gonna end up with an increased chance of upsets in the first 2 rounds, because whoever Fnatic picked Legacy, honestly, like I would say, yeah, if Fnatic were slightly better, they probably had the best chance out of any of those against Legacy. Ecstatic picking Liquid, that's obviously possible. And you're going to end up with more favorable matchups for the underdogs. So you get over the course of the whole, you should get slightly more upsets than you would in a general event. But the problem is that then you end up with a bunch of weaker teams who make it deeper. So when you actually get to the LAN stage, it's much more difficult to find that opposition, because then you end up with 4 very good teams who beat whoever got thrown at them because they got picked last. Like they got picked by the worst opponent. And you end up with a bunch of worse teams who picked the easy opponents and now have to square up against the very difficult ones. So I don't think we're for a team like Spirit, for a team like Mouse, we're gonna see Spirit play Mouse, Vitality, or Mongols. Probably 2 of them at some point over the course of this event. And those are the games that I'm really going to judge them on. Those are the games that I really think are going to matter more so than these online games. And I think that's where we'll get like an indication of where we sit at the moment, because it is a little bit in flux right now, because we have one team which beat the best team in the world in a Cologne playoff game. Then we have another team who beat them in the Cologne final. So it's difficult to I wouldn't say it's in flux. Vitality are the best team in the world, but it's definitely, the gap has closed, and it's shaping up to be it's shaping up where it could potentially converge, and we might see a change in who the best team in the world is at some point over the fall season. It's moved in that direction, I think.
The problem I have with the Vitality of it all is that the gap feels like it should have closed off the back of ZywOo's worst event and worst series. Like that's kind of the problem I have. It's where I'm tenuously just, they might just still go and smash this event, smash the next 5 events, just because they specifically got such a terrible ZywOo for the first time all year. First time all year ZywOo has a bad event. They don't do very well. They lose to Mouse in a pretty great game. It's not, for me, that life-changing. I need to see them lose again. So for me, the gap really isn't actually changed. I'm still living in the same world. I'm still living in a Vitality are the dominant team right now. I need it done more than once. I need it done without a ZywOo who can't seem to look in the right direction, shoot his gun, or anything else. I need to see it again. So no, I don't feel like the gap's changed at all. I feel like typically
it's opened up the question. It's the fact that here we have the potential for that to happen. It's opened up that.
Yeah, I guess in that sense we're allowed to ask the question now, but for me it's not going to be answered not like this. It needs to be done again. We'll see what comes of it, but ZywOo absolutely smashed everyone. Obviously he is the king of online CS. We do know that. His MVPs reflect it. His number ones reflect it. He is the GOAT of online CS.
Yeah, the thing is, you are right.
I'm not wrong, so we'll see. We'll see if the land form can return. Let's move on, though, to the losers.
Yep.
There are some pretty big ones. Some pretty huge losers at this sort of stage. And obviously, we could go through some of the lower tier teams who showed up here and disappointed. Not all of them are valid picks, I don't think. Like saying Foot, Ecstatic, Nemiga especially, are losers off the back of this sort of event, this one match played, I don't think is quite doing them justice. One team who I think might be more valid for this, just to throw it out here, I wanted more from NIP. I really thought they were a team with a brilliant chance to upset. Like they were playing Pain. Yep. The seeding was like 18 and 13. Like they're pretty close, but realistically in terms of I think CS played recently, NIP probably could be the higher seed. Like this is a winnable match.
Yeah. I think the bookies had NIP as the favorite, even if they were technically lower seeded. I think the bookies, it was probably narrow, but I think NIP had the odds favor, like they were the odds on favorite for against Pain here. So it's like we talked about, we didn't have any upsets in the first round. The favorites all won in the first round. You kind of did, but like maybe slightly with
By
with the
seeding,
Pain
yeah,
over.
but
By seeding, yes, but the one upset we maybe kind of had was NIP Pain. So, because I'm going off of memory there, but I think I saw that, and I think I saw that NIP were considered the favorites by some. But in any case, they should have probably had a stronger showing against Pain.
no, they definitely should have. And one of the big problems you have, especially when you're trying to judge Pain right now and understand who they are as a team, when I come out of a series where Snow top frags and they win against an opponent I thought they'd lose to, I'm just kind of baffled. I'm just kind of annoyed. Like, what is this? Since when is Snow going to be good again, firstly? I mean, he was good at Fisher Playground randomly, bottomed out like crazy at Cologne, now comes here, and again is winning a series for this roster. I'm puzzled, really. I don't understand what's going on. But the biggest thing for me is that NIP should expect to win that game. Just on form, just on everything else. The fact they allow it to, the fact they lose it is just a problem. For me, the part that really disappoints me is the Ancient T side. Like, they lose a close nuke, a CT-sided nuke. It's not their pick. I can understand their T side having a few more struggles. But especially a Snappy-led team picking a map and then struggling on their T side. It's a letdown. That's a letdown. Just by itself. The rest of the series, irrelevant. Just, I was hoping for more on that Ancient T side.
Yeah. Yeah, I think NIP is maybe the one team I can really pick out as a loser. As a lot of the others, it's like they show up, they have a difficult opponent by definition, and a lot of the teams that I probably could have considered to be losers here, they actually perform much better than I thought they would. So I'd have to commend them. But NIP is the one I can sort of pick out. I'd like to pick out one more though, which is Fnatic. And I'm not saying I expected a lot out of Fnatic, but I expected even less out of Legacy. I thought they were so fluky. I thought that this was like where the major fluke would be exposed. And the fact that absolutely nobody on Fnatic delivered, like barely even in their map win, you got a pretty good level out of Jumbo and Cypher, but it's also Crims who's picking up the slack there, and Blame F is doing more or less jack. And then that Mirage map, which is relatively close, you don't really get anything stand out from any of the Fnatic players. You get nothing out of Cypher, which I feel like you would have wanted to see. It's sort of we have said he's not going to replace Mattis, but you'd like to see him closer than.
It's some of these online
Crims.
games, he's kind of dumpstering the weak opposition. It's this game where you needed him to really prove it, though. You know what I mean? Like, he's had some strong showings in terms of just the overall Fnatic matches. But this game...
That's his career in a nutshell. He dumpsters the online games. But he doesn't often show up against a better opposition. And I wouldn't even say Legacy is that much better of a team to oppose. Like, it's not... Yeah, I mean, for that...
even Legacy, if I have to give them credit. Yeah. They're like better than Nine. They're better than Sparta. You know, they're better than these sorts of rosters. But no, Fnatic should have hoped to have seen, you know, the new the sort of the new level from Cypher, a higher level from Cypher than this.
Yeah, and they do that. Like, I was surprised by MIBR and NIP and Complexity as well, who I think picked before them, that they picked strong teams as opponents. Fnatic and Ecstatic were basically the only two who picked obvious weak teams, I feel like, out of the field of favorites, and they picked Legacy, who I feel is sort of the odd one out of the favorites. They were, you know, we didn't really like them for most of the spring season, and then they had a decent major showing, but it was still unsustainable, it felt. And Ecstatic picked Liquid, who are a joke, somehow get picked fifth. Like, it's this is more something we would have talked about last week when these games were happening, but it's or when this draft was already happening. But I was disappointed to see that Fnatic couldn't deliver on that when they picked one of the two teams that I felt were standout weak teams out of the top 16. But yeah, it's weird. So for that, I would say Fnatic are a loser. A lot of the others, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, your FlyQuest and you play Aurora, Xantares is back. You play Overtime, that's fine. I wouldn't even say that's all that bad. TNL, Sure, you didn't pick Vitality as you said you would, but you win a map off Navi.
You know, they win the
That's a win.
opening map, you know, and it's ancient.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, there's
That's a win.
Mirage still to come. Like, I thought there's an
Yeah.
opportunity there. The door's wide open for them to try and win it. Now, they don't quite get the Davu they need in map 3, and that's the big disappointment. That's why Mirage
Yeah.
I think falls short. But no, huge turnout for them to go into ancient and take a W. Like, that's an impressive sort of moment for TNL, especially going into the first stage of Pro League, which they've qualified for. The fact that they're going to have more than just this ridiculous single limb online BO3 to play for. They actually have a chance to play multiple opponents, and plus they have the StarLadder closed qualifier coming, so they could even qualify for that on top of everything else. But stage 1 will be a full Swiss, I believe. So they'll have at least 3 losses worth of time to play. Plus, they'll get to face some bums along the way. No Na'Vi in every game. It'll be, at the top end, the best teams they'll play, Astralis, Furia, G2, Gamer Legion even. But then they'll definitely get to show off against someone like M80, someone like NRG, someone like Hotu, Fluxo, Rooster. Like, these rosters are... I mean, Hotu's going to be low-key kind of dangerous. Don't sleep on him. But some of those others, like the Aussies, bums. Like, you get to actually, like, put some LAN reps into good use, show yourself off to a bigger crowd than the actual LANs you won, because can't forget that. They actually have gone out and won a LAN this year. This is a great showing for TNL despite not having one. But
yeah, and the same goes for a lot of the other teams as well, because you have, like we said, Footbait was probably going to be the closest game. It was very close. It was very close. It was overtime and 24 rounds. And that's solid. I probably wouldn't, like, that's solid. That's a level I would probably expect out of Foot at this point. Nemiga, you mentioned, they play triple overtime against G2, double digits on both maps. Solid. It's solid across the board. I don't feel like there was anybody hugely disappointed. Even Ens take a map off of Mongols. OG, who weren't supposed to be here, when the opening map against Mouse. Passion when the opening map against Spirit. Even NRG. No, sorry, NRG did jack.
NRG got battered. But to be fair, NRG, you can't call them a loser for it. I entirely expect them to get fucking battered. They came into this as a piece of fucking cod. If they didn't get battered, deep fried, and chucked into a fucking newspaper, I'd have been genuinely alarmed. Winning 10 rounds would have been a miracle for them.
All of these games are like minor wins for the underdog. Like, you can't even, like, again, the only big losses yet. I guess maybe Bet Boom could be a loser, because maybe with what they showed in Fisher, they should be able to do a little bit more against a FaZe team, which is, I'd say, pretty weak, with an Opper who is pretty weak, with it's looking weird, and there's rumors of roster changes, which is never really a good sign.
Yeah, the door's open in that series. The door is open. And they stubbed their toe on the frame and then tried again somewhere else. Like, they just left. And they're like, no, I'm good. This door doesn't like me. But the door was there. Like, they could have slipped through a win, at least. Just a map.
Yep.
So I guess in terms of the losers, we have to basically punish those who didn't even give us the bare minimum.
We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel there, because a lot of teams showed solid stuff.
Too positive. Yeah. It's too positive, and that's why I kind of call it boring in the scroll down there. It's like favorites won, and I can't even take like too much of a dump on the losers in most of these maps, or most of these series, because they played good CS. Despite being massive underdogs in some cases. So, no, overall, bit boring, but fair. Just fair. I think that's the way to put it.
And it's really exciting because, as you said, we had the ESL Pro League first stage, and I think a lot of these teams are going to show up in. A few of them are going to show up in Blast Open, so we're going to have. That's also an online start where Ecstatic is going to show up. M80, as you said, they weren't here, but they're going to show up there. Fisher still haven't released a couple of their VRS invites, but it seems, weirdly enough, are they also violating VRS principles? I think. Yeah, they were supposed to invite off of this July 7th. Super weird. That's a rule breach. And then StarLadder, obviously an eternal rule breach. We're going to talk about that. They also have the same thing where a lot of these teams might show up here. And yeah, as you said, ESL Pro League, TNL, Bait are going to be here, and yeah, etc. We're going to have a lot of fun watching these teams, and the fact that they were able to square up like this against the top opposition, it paints them in a good light for the rest of the season.
It should be a pretty banging Swiss, that ESL Pro League opener. Like, it should be a pretty good Swiss.
Yeah.
All things considered. But that's enough of Blast Bounty. We've got more online CS from the last week. I said some big, some small, and some somewhere in between. This is probably somewhere in between. This was the playoffs of CCT Season 3 Europe Series 4. Wow. More iconic by the day, these names.
Oh, yeah.
OG have triumphed with their new roster. Now, they've taken down some pretty sizable opposition on the way to their grand final victory. Took down Tricked, who've been fairly impressive of late. Ents with their new roster. Saw, who are the miracle workers of every tier of Counter-Strike. It doesn't make any sense. And Paravision in the grand final, who are a very stacked, rifle-heavy roster. It's a pretty solid run. I've put them facetiously as champs of Europe in the timestamps because, well, technically it's a Europe
Champions
series.
of Europe.
Yeah, barely even a conference league equivalent, but still, it's a victory for them. They're going to be happy with. It's going to do them a lot of good as far as VRS is concerned. But quite importantly, it's not so much a proof of concept because they're not trying to prove a new concept. They're still winning off the same thing, which is riflers go kill. It's just they've changed the riflers who are going and killing. Notably for me, Crizzen, kind of supposed to be like the hard entry, sort of almost supportive IGL sort of role in the way he plays it. If he's going to hit the shots and drop like 1.8 ratings in series, you're going to win a lot of fucking games. And he certainly did that at times in this run. So that was kind of nuts to see. But Spook, the probably MVP of the entire event, drops a 1.3 rating. Just another great showing from him as he continues to be the player we think as, like in our heads, or at least the one we project to be, the best player on OG. Sure, they'll show up to a major sometimes and it's just Nikodos, but as far as the talent, as far as the roles he plays, we think of Spook. Adam B, also a strong sort of debut event win. I'm not sure if that's actually his debut. I'm not sure which other games he's played for them. Yeah, a couple other events, but this was the big sort of premiere of the Adam B OG roster. This was the one they want you to watch, and this is the one they won, so outstanding showing from this group.
Yeah, it's especially Spook showing up like that is huge. He does it a lot. Aros Dodges somehow keeps being utter dog and wins on this team.
It's just the story of his career. Like NIP were able to win with him as well. I'm sure if he goes to SOAR, he'll put up a 0.8 rating and he'll play a fucking playoff at a major thanks to Mutarus. Like he's just in the right place always.
But it is wild. He has single digits amount of frags on so many of their maps, and they still win 70% of them. they have a near 70% win rate, while their new signing to replace Fiku drops a 0.85. Like what? It's insane the way that he's moving right now, and they're still winning. But this is a solid event to take. CCT is a very meaningful event to win and to perform well in. It's probably the biggest win you can have in online Counter-Strike, like in online or in regular series European Counter-Strike. CCT is probably the biggest one you can have. It's bigger than some of the local lands we've seen as well. So, like, teams who win CCT are almost always destined to be pretty good, and their players are almost always destined for better things later on. So OG. They step in and it's sort of like they should win. I feel like it's probably the feeling.
Well, they're a playoff invite team, so they're one of those teams that you feel like should win, but then again, you could say that for almost every playoff invite team. You're like, Fnatic, you should win this.
Yeah.
Paravision, you should win this. Big, no, you're trash. You're just high rated. Ents, TNL, like Saw, you guys all have this expectation on yourselves. Like, it's on your shoulders, sure, self-imposed. Like, you have loaded that rucksack with those weights and chucked it on your back. You feel hard, you feel strong.
Yeah.
But to make it through the final and win it is critical. I think bare minimum semis to be happy with, if you're a playoff invite team, bare minimum semis to be happy with your run. But OG made it to the final and won it. And honestly, Paravision were in a weird sort of form where they kept bouncing between carries. Like series by series, it was like AW, Ziello, Nota, Jame. They're sort of like the intro to Last Airbender, except they got to the grand final and it was, there's no fifth one, is there? So they just fell one short. But they were they were a dangerous roster. They were someone to be sort of scared of, I think, especially when you can't predict which way they're going to beat you. You kind of have to be intimidated by this Jame-led parry vision. So no, huge W in the final. In terms of VRS shift for them, this is a 112 points plus 9 ranking or placements in the overalls. So yeah, fantastic win. And as you said, there is certain pedigree to winning CCTs. A lot of the tier 2 rosters that become tier 1.5 rosters that have these sorts of runs or that produce players that other people want to buy, looking at you, Navi, they kind of do well over and over again in CCTs. So W to start it off with Adam B, with Aros Dosh to a lesser extent, considering he wasn't that good. It's going to be great for OG going forth.
Yep, and especially if you look at OG in the grand scheme of things, this is their curve starting to trend up again. Because for those who follow the team and have followed the team over the years, they started out as a tier 1 team. They started out with tier 1 ambitions. They signed tier 1 players. They participated in tier 1 events. Over the course of a long time, some of their players got sold. Some of them just ended up being outright failures. And they eventually fell down so far where they were effectively equivalent to evil geniuses, which is yikes. But that's where they sort of started over. They rebuilt with Chris and they rebuilt with Lambert, even, who was only really there circumstantially. Because
shout out Lambert, big dog.
Yep. They started rebuilding with Chris and they brought in Spook, they brought in Nikodos, they've now brought in Adam B and Aristotle, I guess. And that's this is when I feel like the curve is starting to trend back up, because they're looking solid. And yeah. And as for CCT wins, this is where we see Navi Junior were back-to-back champions in these previous ones, and they now got sold to Foot. They're now looking at making a tier one entry. Bait is a team which has won CCT several times over. Yep. Sangal also won it back-to-back with the roster that is now heroic and is competing in tier 1. Spirit Academy have won it back-to-back. Bet Boom have also won several times, and they're also sort of teetering on that edge. And this is what you get. It is the conference league. It is the conference league of Counter-Strike, I feel like, in a way, where it's something where, like, a lot of the time when you win an online event, I do not give a shit. But when somebody wins CCT, I still note that down, and that's something which is important, and it shows something.
Yeah, for me, it's not, maybe 90% is exaggerated, but a good chunk of the demos I watch, the players I start tracking, truly like paying attention to, is from CCTs, be it the Swiss, be it the playoffs. Typically, it's mostly the Swiss if we're talking like the deeper pools. But those are usually key maps against stronger opponents, and I usually find them quite indicative of a player's potential. If they can perform against at least CCT competition, something to actually count. Something that's worthy. So shout out Mines, who played 3 series, dropped a 1.2, and then immediately got replaced. But yeah, this CCT event was pretty stacked at the top end when you started getting to the playoffs. I think of all things, like we said a lot of negative things about Fnatic. They did play this, I believe, after they'd lost their bounty match, and they picked up a couple nice wins. They had some nice showings from Cypher. They could take some positives away from it as well. It's not all doom and gloom for everyone who isn't OG in this context. I did say, if you're an invited playoff team, top 4, pretty great. I mean, Partizan played an invited playoff team, beat them 13-10, 13-10. Sure, it's big. They are the freest dub, but critical. So I'm happy with what I saw from a lot of rosters here. And even if you didn't win, you didn't make it that deep. If you're Spirit Academy and you're betting in a fresh player, you got knocked out straight away, but at least you had that Mazai sort of showing. Like, he put up some crazy numbers overall. His Ancient was, I wouldn't say elite, but it was a tidy debut for a 16-year-old playing in a proper team. You know, outside of Face It play and I think maybe some lower level Spirit Academy stuff, a tidy little debut. There's some issues. Obviously, we had a lot of chat about it on stream when we watched the games. We weren't liking certain things. We thought maybe there's some mechanical sort of flaws that could be adjusted or addressed, but it was an interesting debut. So a lot of positives, a lot of takeaways that I think go beyond just, we lost, fuck it, let's blow this whole thing up and try again.
Yeah, and it's a it's a tough debut, to be honest. This new 9 squad with Fuzi is pretty stacked. I like the way this team is looking at the moment. So to perform that well against them in a debut as well is, yeah, it's high quality players. It's difficult. It's not as easy to bang out against those players as it is against some other teams in this event. But yeah, solid, really good. Congratulations to OG.
OG, big W. We do have now a bit of a weird sort of news story. This is sort of an old school Quack classic. We don't get them quite as often anymore, but
yeah,
we do have one today. It's going to be StarLadder VRS. I keep seeing tweets about it. I keep seeing people talking about it. Not going to lie, I'm impatient and I don't read it, so I don't really know what's going on. So I'm going to learn along with everyone else at home who I'm sure has paid about as much attention as I have.
Yes, basically the only person talking about this at the moment is Messioso, Graham Pitt, manager of Complexity. All around,
as always, when there's a problem
guy.
with the way the scene is run, somehow you know he's going to be the progenitor of the complaints. You know he's going to be the one who did his research, looked up the rulings.
Yep.
Shout out Messioso.
He is the Valve regional standings. Like that's what he's made of. He has, but yeah, he's pointed out a lot of. He's basically the only person who's pointing this out, and I think part of the reason I don't want to jump to conclusions and say that this is some sort of corruption or anything, but I think one of the reasons why you're not really reading about this is because HLTV probably have a hard time reporting about this, considering they're part of that VRS system, and they are sort of waiting. I would assume that they're sort of waiting for some official word from Valve before they write an article about StarLadder's VRS issues. Considering they are the only data provider for the VRS. So that's why I think this sort of flies on the radar. You have to basically follow what Messioso is saying. You have to follow, which most people are not gonna do. It's probably not gonna show up very highly on Reddit. This is why I feel like this news story sort of flies under the radar. So I'm just gonna go through basically what he's been saying. And the issue here is that there's an event in StarLadder is hosting an event in Budapest, I think. Yes, it's not the major, which is also going to be in Budapest, but this is in the middle of September. There's going to be a small LAN with 8 teams and an online close qualifier, of which the invites have been confirmed for. It is Valve ranked, but with what Messioso is saying, it by the letter of the law it shouldn't be, because there is. In case you're unfamiliar, one of the main parts of the VRS system and why it exists is because there's a series of deadlines that you need to meet when you announce information. And this is basically to help teams choose which events they should go to and help with the invite process and make sure that everything is transparent and that all of the invites are fair. So the first thing which happened was that they modified the VRS slots after the invitation ranking the invites were going to be based on was already released, which was an issue. The invites were supposed to go out based on the July 7th ranking, but they modified the slot distribution on July 14th, and this is a breach of the VRS ranking, right. And it is actually like cause for big concern, because if you adjust the VRS slot distribution, like how many invites do you get relative to how many qualifying spots, you could end up with conflicts of interest where you're doing that specifically to target one team, which is bad.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And also the rules say that the invite date must follow the date of quote unquote additional info by 30 days. So it's changing after the supposed invite date, which you did announce. It makes it very weird. So that's one of the things which has happened. There's another thing for they have another event going in 2026 as well. There's another deadline for this. This had to be released by like all of the information about this event had to be released before July 25th, and it has not been released whatsoever. That would be grounds for removing their VRS status or demoting it to a tier 2 event rather than a tier 1 licensed event. So right. Again, that's an issue with StarLadder. And another one, they announced the invites for the close qualifier for the event, and this is when Messi also made a really big tweet, which a really long tweet, which I might just read out as it is, because it sort of exemplifies everything. So, reminder that this event hasn't been correctly demoted to Tier 2 based on multiple failures to meet the tournament operation requirements, thus can still invite from the global rank 1 top 12 teams when they shouldn't be able to. And this is obviously affecting people's careers. This is affecting different teams and, the way that works. And it's also inviting from a VRS after having made changes to their additional info, which is a clear violation of the tournament operation requirements. So on July 7th, the StarLadder announced they changed global VRS slots to Europe-only VRS slots, aka they changed the VRS filter for their VRS invites. One of the additional info aspects is a definition of the filters to the VRS that direct VRS invites will be based on, which they clearly announced changes to. I'm just reading straight up of what it says, and then it reads out the rule.
Yeah.
And you need to use the most recent version of the VRS as of the invite date. So that would be the July ranking, but they use the August ranking. It's super weird. I think maybe it's the wrong way around. Anyway, whatever is the case, it's very strange, and they've invited off the wrong ranking. And what I think is worrying about this is that they're also hosting the major. They are basically completely ignoring the tournament operation requirements, which Valve have imposed on them, while Valve is also a customer of them because they are providing all of the logistics to host the major in Budapest. Yeah. It feels very weird. And the fact that neither StarLadder nor Valve even address this sort of just signals that it feels very corrupt, because it feels like you can do whatever the fuck you want with VRS and get away with it, because Valve are not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, just openly manipulate it to serve a certain function, a certain purpose, when realistically it needs to be untouchable in that sense. You shouldn't be able to, as an org. We've had this problem with teams before trying to use it as a tool to get themselves certain places, and that's why changes have been made. And that's why here again we don't want an org to be able to use it as a tool to specifically invite certain teams. Especially thinking about what certain TOs, the types of events they run and the types of teams they sponsor at the same time. We've seen Bet Boom events. We've seen events run by 500, I believe, have had events before in the past.
Yeah, there's one going right now, or not going, but it's going to be in the fall in, I think it was Romania. Sorry, no, it's in Poland, where they BetClick are the main sponsor of an event hosted there, and they also the weird thing about them is it's a tier 2 event, and the tier 2 rules specify if you have a tier 2 event, you cannot invite teams ranked 12 or higher. You need the VRS. You basically can't invite the top 12. You need to invite 13 and below. The thing is, the rules don't say that you have to start from 13, because that would obviously be a pain. If you have a tier 2 licensed event with a tiny prize pool, and like you're just inviting people to, let's say an online European event, something at the tier of United 21, you don't want to start by inviting.
Yeah, we get into the whole problem we talked about prior to this system even starting, where tier 2 orgs kind of get screwed by having to wait for the obvious no's to actually say no before they can invite the next set of obvious no's, etc., etc., etc.
And if you're making an event which is basically targeting, let's say, like the 60 to 80 range of teams, those are the teams that you expect to accept the invites. You don't want to start from 13 and go down. So you are allowed to move that limit. You're allowed to move that limit. You can say we're going to start at 40 and we're going to invite below, because we expect that everybody ranked higher than 40 is not going to accept our invite. This LAN event has decided to put that limit at 16, and one of the effects of that is that NIP, who actually want to attend the event but are ranked higher than 16 on the European ranking, don't receive an invite because they're too highly ranked. So they have to play the open qualifier. They signed up for the open qualifier because they're too highly ranked. And this is entirely VRS compliant, but it is also opening up for the fact that it might be a conflict of interest, because by moving the limit down, they are more likely to reach BetClick. And they've made clear that BetClick don't run the event. They're the main sponsor. Organizationally, they have no input here if you want to be official, but it's just opening up for the risk that you move the limit down so BetClick can participate in the BetClick sponsored event, especially when they're only moving it from 13 to 16. It does feel very small. Like, is there any reason why Liquid Bait BetBoom would accept this major invite or this LAN invite when Saw NIP Heroic wouldn't? I don't know. Like, that's strange. So yeah, the VRS is wild, and there's a lot of things you can do. It's there's a lot of kinks that need to be worked out. But yeah, the Budapest thing is especially weird, and it feels really sad to me because it ends up being the case that StarLadder either seem to not know what they're doing with regard to VRS, or they ignore it entirely. And they're going to host a major in a couple of months, which feels like that it's just setting up Budapest to be an outright disaster of a major, which is sad. Because what happens if you have last year we had a controversial change where your finishing record in stage 1 of the major didn't affect your seeding for stage 2. Like you could go through 3-0 and still be lower seeded than a team which went through 3-2 just because they had higher VRS overall. So that was controversial. Sorry, that was in Shanghai, not the last major, but because they changed that mid-event. And that is controversial. It could be a conflict of interest. You could be doing that change because you knew what the results were. We're going to end up with such integrity issues at some point, and it might be in the Budapest major. Those stuff happens. Like, you need to address those things occasionally. And when the TO has a record of not following VRS rules, that's just they're not following the integrity of the rules that are here. That just ends up being primed for bullshit shenanigans, and I don't feel good about it. But I hope at least Valve come out with a comment at some point before the major, or rather before this event in Budapest, where they say that this is either ranked or not.
Yeah, they need to address that. They need to make it clear, and they also need to just start. I don't know, like somehow slap the TOs on the wrist, like be like, no, you need to be sticking to these rules more explicitly. And understand what it is you're doing ahead of time rather than just arbitrarily switching between different codes, essentially. Like, this is not the way VRS is meant to be functioning. It's not, again, as I said before, it's not a tool for you to use to get the right teams at your event. You are supposed to use it as we intended.
Yep.
But all right, that was pretty cocky, but it was not the cock of the week, which is, of course, everyone's favorite segment on the show with the greatest intro of all time. There it goes. Quack. I have no idea what's going on here. There's a link in my document to a tweet.
Don't click
Who
it
is
yet.
this?
Don't click it yet.
I've opened it. I've not changed tab. I'm not looking at it.
Right, yes. Because before you do that, I'm just going to ask you. This is just a stupid take from somebody I saw, and it got attention, but it's nobody important. And I'm just going to ask you, can you just name 5 of the most recent quote-unquote IGL prodigies the CS scene has produced? Just off the top of your head. It doesn't really matter who they are. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. When you hear that word, who do you think of? Like
I've got to
just name 5.
For me,
people.
it's like young IGLs. The few I can think of are guys like Krizen. He was very young, did it in Mouse XT, got picked up for OG. I think just a guy like Onyx, who's been leading a young team as a young guy, I guess kind of counts for me. Another classic example would be, another one from the academies would be Crabini, like in terms of his fragging and calling would be interesting. By that logic, you could include most IGLs from academies, but I'm not going to extend it too much. Like, I guess Robo's borderline, if I had to put it that way. Then otherwise, before that, obviously we have the big dog, the most obvious case of Shuhei. You know, Mao's an XT IGL, goes to Mao's still elite team he managed to form. Beyond that, I don't really have a whole lot. I mean, I always hear memes about certain players in NA, but I'm not going to repeat that as true prodigies. So I don't know. That's maybe the group that comes to mind.
Right. And if you were to say how many IGL prodigies can you think of that were produced after Nafany came along, you could name quite a few.
Isn't that like everyone I just said except Shuhei? Yeah,
Shuhei
MPL,
as well.
banger pick,
Shuhei
Ted, banger pick. Yeah, Shuhei.
NPL's
a good one. Like, on top of everything else, he's a fragging IGL beyond compare, really, in tier 2.
I would say, if I was going through this list, I would probably say NPL, Shui. I'd say Kixan. He's up there. Prodigy? I'm not sure I'd call him a prodigy, but he's definitely come up. And I think you're going to agree with me that Kixan deserves to be in this list when I say what this should take is. I'd probably say ZTR. I'd probably say LNC.
ZTR, Linus, I mean, Prodigy for me, yeah, they're good IGLs. I can't deny. It's just, for me, I want either I want them to be good beyond their years, or I want them to be so young and so obscure that it feels like, you know, I'm seeing something. Like, but I guess they would fit in a way.
Yeah, I mean, you look, I can name a couple. The take that is here is that somebody named Born to Kill has posted 2 screenshots of HLTV profiles where it says the last 2 IGL prodigies the CS scene has produced, both washed, unfortunately. And the 2 he's talking about is Nafany and Shui.
I love how, bro, I've just now opened it up and I'm looking at his fucking his screenshots. Does he not own a fucking and like a fucking ad blocker? Or has he had to draw with like
Oh, I've just seen that.
Photoshop permanent marker over the adverts? Like ad block's free, bro. Ad block's free.
Yeah, dude, he hasn't even covered it entirely. Like he's just sloppily drawn over it with his mouse.
Like I can see they used to be there. It's weird.
Jesus, yeah. No, okay, yeah. So he's for some reason he's showing screenshots of Nafany in 2021 and Shui in the last 6 months.
Yeah, weird
to
choice
illustrate
as
this
well.
point. Super weird. I wouldn't even say that Nafany and Shui. First of all, I wouldn't say Shui and Nafany are the latest 2 IGL prodigies. And I also wouldn't say that both of them are washed. I don't think Shui is washed.
I think Shui's had some terrible run on Liquid, and I think there's concern, but I wouldn't say he's washed yet. I mean, Nafany fair, but Prodigy IGL, yeah, I guess it did kind of feel that way. He was, Gambit Academy. They did become the Gambit main team. They had success beyond what was expected for their years, so it makes sense. But I'm going to be honest, when it comes to IGLs, you could extend Prodigy to be pretty wide as far as the window. Like Kingt, you brought up, is 25. He started on Apex. He was like 22. I mean, you know, it's not that young in the end. Blitz for the Mongols is only 24 now. Like he's not exactly long in the tooth, is he? So there are some other options who are very productive still.
Yeah, as ZTR and Linus are still relatively young even now, young, and ZTR I'd probably say broke through. He probably broke out last year, maybe. Definitely this year. He's up there, and Linus definitely broke out this year as well with the heroic. Maybe last year with Sangal, and yeah. You end up with even Kingt, I would say, as you said, and then you could extend it to like a bunch of players, and Nafany is definitely not one of the 2 most recent. Yeah, it's just super weird to me.
The weird part of it all is you can technically say he's right.
Yes.
You can say he's right. Yeah. I already hit that one. You could say he's right just on the basis they use the word prodigy, and prodigy does imply a certain level of ability that maybe you can't extend to literally everyone who happens to be young and was an IGL, right? I feel like that might be their determining factors. They consider those guys to have been so good at the time they broke out. Now, obviously, his Nafany pick, in that sense, maybe he was considered maybe a prodigy by the scene in general, although it became clear as time went on that his ability to call was almost entirely based on these guys can go win duels, and including in that these guys himself. Plus, he has Hobbit holding his hand. Like, it kind of worked out in a variety of ways that are not his prodigal innate ability. But I do think there's some of the guys we mentioned have been calling a really strong game beyond what you'd expect, etc., and are more recent than those 2 guys. But that's I think it's a bit of a semantic. This dick is a semantical dick.
It probably is. Yeah, it probably is a semantical dick. I think Nafany in these days he gets a worse rep than I think he deserves, but he wasn't that good to begin with, because I think his status as like a great young IGL was very much by association with a legitimately good prodigy team, which he was coming up on, the Gambit Youngsters teams. Like, I think his status as a prodigy was, or like as a very like one of the best young players of all time, came through because he was playing with Shiro and Exile. I think that's where it came from, and you sort of by association you rate Nafany as well just because of what they're doing. With that said, I still think he was pretty solid. He's not the best IGL. He's not worse. I think he's got some of the chops you need to hang at a decent level. I also think he's had some really horrible stints calling wise, but yeah, he is not a legitimate prodigy, I don't think. He's never as good as... he's never going to be as good as, like... I think even Shui is much better than what Nafany is. has ever been. So, yeah. Weird take. Super weird. I'll give
A
an
weird
honorable
take,
mention
but,
for a yeah.
It's just it's one of
I'll
those
give it
cases
on-
where it's like it's such a take that's just like, in a way he could be right if he wants to
Yeah.
define Prodigy as reaching a certain minimum in terms of performance and like overcoming of expectation and obstacle, but it's just
Yeah.
a bit odd to be so limited in your vision of Prodigal or overachieving IGLs who are young.
Yeah, and I will also note as an honorable mention for a separate cock of the week is this one random Falcons fan I discovered who was making the argument that Falcons dominate the field of esports, and the argument was because the Melbourne final is the most watched series in ESL's history, because apparently people are rewatching this series a lot.
Well, like the
Which is
YouTube
fair.
video, like the VOD.
Yeah, it has. He claims it has 2.2 million views, and I'm not sure that's true. Let me check.
What has that got to do with Falcons?
Yes, okay. On YouTube, it has 2.2 million views, which is the second most watched video on their YouTube channel. The Cologne 24 final has 1.9. Cologne 23 has 1.9. So that's his argument.
Yeah, but the reason it's rewatched is because no one could watch it live because it's at a weird time. Like that's pretty much the only reason, right? It happened to be a good final, but it was at a weird time, so people want to rewatch it. Like that's it.
So Falcons dominate the field of esports because of that. And then when people say that, what the fuck are you talking about? His secondary argument is that they're winning the Esports World Cup Club Championship last year, which is,
It's just the Obama meme, bro. Like, chill. Like, it's just Falcons giving themselves a medal. Like, I don't care about the Esports World Cup.
I love the way also another one he said was like to silence the haters was to post like a collage of pictures where Falcons are winning stuff, and then one of them is a trophy lift. The other two is just like they're standing up after a map win, and that's like, that's the good type of edit you would make for Vitality when they had won 3 straight events. You show all the trophy lifts, but this one is just like 2 of them are just map wins,
just high fives,
Yeah, it's just high fives. There's an honorary cock of the week. I was picking between these two because honestly, I was an NIP fan, but we were never this delusional, none of us. So, yeah, but weird day, weird week for Counter-Strike takes.
Yeah, very strange. And speaking of weird weeks,
yeah,
this was really weird. s1mple has debuted with BC Game.
Rookie of the
year. But this is obviously when the roster move comes out, it's announced. That was strange enough as is, right? Like that was just an oddity by itself. But then now we actually watch it happen. Like this is s1mple in 2025 playing Exort the Proving Grounds Season 3 for BC Game against Cybershock. And I feel like I'm in a weird sort of like s1mple nightmare. Like I'm not in my own nightmare. I'm in his. Like he's in some weird nightmare. It's 2017 or 16 and he's like between teams on Team Liquid. Like he's he wants to come back to Europe. They've let him go. He's like having this nightmare where he never realizes his potential, never signs for Na'Vi, and he ends up on BC Game playing this bloody event. But it's all come real. And to make it even worse, he's not even playing that well. He's having the nightmare of all nightmares, where he's struggling to outfrag Forrester, Nutaneki, Glowing, Phenomen, and Blixie. Like, these are the guys who used to dream of kissing his feet, and he can't even dominate the series against them. It's horrifying if you are s1mple in that moment. Did you watch this series?
No.
Because it's a strange blend of bad and good, I guess, if you're a s1mple believer, because the AWP was kind of working for him in the rounds it worked. Like, the rounds it worked, it really worked. Like, he was getting big multi-kills. He was impactful. He won almost all his opening duels he actually managed to take. But overall, it just wasn't a great showing. So I'm so torn on this debut, not just because of the concept, but because of how it played out.
Yep. Flash your mind back to the 2021 IESF World Championship, and you're looking at the Macedonian team, which won. Tsatsaniito, the top performer. And in 2021, if you say in a couple of years this guy's going to be carrying s1mple to a match win, you would not believe it. But
No.
here we are. Yeah, no, it's a wild thing. I think this is cause to talk about the entire team, which we talked a bit about pre-show. It is super weird. It's very strange. My thinking is they're only playing through these couple of events and these couple of games for the potential to make even further roster changes later on. With the new VRS rules, you need to play 5 games with every new player before they're added to the VRS. So they need to play 5 games with this core, and then they can replace 1 player or 2 maybe, I don't know. And yeah, it's a very weird team. It's a very weird performance out of s1mple. This is sort of the one, like the argument that people are making about BC Game, about s1mple going to BC Game, is to get the reps in, show that after this reportedly short stint with BC Game, he's going to be a free agent, and his hope is that at that point he's going to have a 125 rating on HLTV, which he can use as bargaining and say, hey, I'm smacking these other prodigies you might be looking at, and you should sign me instead for your tier 1 team.
Yeah.
And it's humble. It's a start. He's not negative, and it's going to be uncomfortable in all of these. It's going to be uncomfortable stepping into this kind of team at this level. It is a change from tier 1 as well. It's not uncommon that tier 1 players struggle in tier 2 for various reasons, but
yeah, and it's not always because they're frauds. It's not always because they're frauds.
No, not always. Sometimes, but not
Sometimes
always.
It is.
But yeah, I don't know what to make of this. It's a wild game. It's something else, and it's something else to see. But yeah, he has to get through this. This is a part of the initiation of making it back to tier 1. He needs to get through this, and he needs to get through these games. And he's got another one lined up today where he's actually playing BetClick, who I would say are better than Cybershock. I would say they have
at this point.
Yeah, you always are at tier 2, but there's
no,
more.
This one you are though.
All right, yeah.
I will push back on that, but this one you are.
No, but okay, it's a 58th best ranked team against what, the 652nd. That's always going to be even. BetClick, I think, have shown the higher peaks, but yeah. See how that goes. That one I might actually tune into, because at that point, I'm starting to think that okay, s1mple is in it. He's getting reps in. He's getting used to playing with his teammates, hopefully. And that's the one where I'm gonna start to expect some more stuff out of s1mple. And that's in the Challenger League as well. That's a huge. The Challenger League Cup, because they have a weird format now. That's another one of those CCT adjacent events where I feel like that's where you need to take things seriously, in the Challenger League.
Yeah, the Challenger League is an impactful one, but
yeah,
I'm concerned because I don't like this BC Game roster just overall. I'm not a big fan of it. I think this is just a weird combination of players. Like they've concocted a roster, I guess, and they've given s1mple a place to play, which is nice, but it's not very good. It's just not very good. I was very disappointed in BC Game, even when they were, pre-Jacob controversy. They were still on the slow slide down, despite having players who had some sort of rep in the higher levels of the scene. The fact that this is where s1mple ends up boggles. So I expect roster moves. You've talked about how, they were supposed to be signing tier 1 players, and if they're not signing a full core of tier 1 players, then playing with this core to establish a new core to make 2 signings or 1 signing, I guess, is the way to go. It's just not great.
Yeah, it's not great. We'll see what ends up happening. It's not. It should be better than this for s1mple. Unfortunately, it isn't really.
We're going to be hitting the it can't get worse than this. It bloody can.
Yeah.
Sort of level soon with these games.
Unfortunately, yeah. So let's just see what happens. This is an experiment. It is really an experiment. We've had tier 1 players step back into tier 2 before. We've had them do this. We've had struggle to say that we've had anybody of the caliber of s1mple to do it, but we've had it happen, and sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. It's part of the process. You need to get through this.
Yeah, the real question is this s1mple at this point the equivalent to the Get Right in Forest that stepped into Dignitas? That's the expectation. Like, that's the way he needs to surpass.
I guess, yeah.
Surely he can, based on what we saw in FaZe. Like, towards the end of the FaZe run, he was much better than that. But if he can't replicate it in the online series he has to go and play, he's basically Get Right in Forest on that Dignitas roster. Appropriately named at that point because it was time to end their careers. They needed that assist, if you see what I mean. To get it over the line. So Dignitas was that for them. Hopefully s1mple is not at his own Swiss clinic on BC Game.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Last week we were talking about players who should retire, or a couple of weeks ago, players who should retire and just become Hall of Famers. Yeah. And this BC Game setup has the potential to set that up for s1mple as well, unfortunately. But it has the potential to do that. But hey, it might also be something you look back at as like Kerrigan in Envy. Just something they tried for 3 months and it wasn't successful, and then they moved on to better things. Like,
yeah, this potential also doesn't impact to play with a better roster. Like,
yeah, this potential just doesn't impact s1mple's career whatsoever beyond the fact that he's now a free agent after it, which is a net benefit for him.
Yeah, that could be it. That's the best case scenario, I think, for us, given the fact that there's not been any roster move. There's no strong, concrete sort of link to a move or a player. Hopefully, this is just a pit stop.
Yeah.
But okay. We have some more games. Oh, wow. What is this?
So many
fun,
favorite
trendy, new TikTok-friendly podcast? Yes. One where we don't actually make them into shorts and therefore gain zero benefit from them, but we do them because they're fun.
Yeah, I did it a couple of times, but we didn't get that much viewership, guys, on my Instagram. Please go watch them.
Funnily enough, not the place we should be posting them, but that's not the point. So the point, you are going to start us off because I realized I've only made like the intro version of mine where it's like so easy. If you don't get it, I will throw you off a bus. Like, I will get a bus, drive it to where you live. I forgot the name, and I'm going to put you on it just to throw you off. But okay.
Yep.
What am I doing today?
Right. You're doing Counter-Strike Imposters, and we've played this before. We played this with Red Reserve, was the one we had then. Perhaps a bit too difficult. It's a team you wouldn't know a lot about. Yeah, this one is the team I think you do know a lot about, but I think you're still going to struggle with this one. This is really hard. So Counter-Strike Imposters, for those of you who didn't play along the last time, I'm going to name 8 players in the category of they played for some team. 5 of them played for the team. 3 of them did not, and your job is to identify the imposters.
Okay.
Who didn't play for the team. And I've got a banger selection in this one. So I can tell you the team is Epsilon.
Epsilon? So just, for fuck's sake.
Cast your mind back. Epsilon, they've had a lot of rosters. They've had a lot more than just Swedish teams. They've had a French team. They've had a lot of different sort of rosters that you can think about here.
Time to pluck my brain for the most obscure tier 5 CS knowledge I can find.
Yep. And basically, if you correctly identify all the players who played there, you are correct. And I'm only including players who were like signed. They were properly added to the team. If they played a map in some random event, doesn't count. So this is, Right. Here are the players. s1mple, BlameF, JW, Richie, your doppelganger, Bentet, Mixwell, Shocks, and Smiths. Good luck.
Right. Talk to me about some of those first names again. Who were the first sort of 4?
s1mple, BlameF, JW, and Richie, your Belgian doppelganger, when he used to have hair.
Yeah, never looked a damn thing like him, but that's fine.
Is there anyone here you're certain played for Epsilon?
No. That's the problem. I'm going to... I'm going pure guesswork here. I've got 6 names written down. I need to write down 2 more. I've just forgotten who you
Serious
said
Blame
again.
of JW, Richie, Bentet, Maxwell, Shocks, Smiths.
All right, screw it. I've got it written down. If I got 2 of the players, it's impossible to not get 2 right. If I get 3 right in terms of players who did play for them, it'll be a miracle, and I'll be happy with it.
All right. Yep.
Because I'm absolutely clueless when it comes to Epsilon's history.
What's your strongest hunch here? Who do you think?
I got a
What do you think is
feeling.
most likely?
I got a feeling Smiths is a good one to be locked into. Like Smiths, I feel like there might have been a time where either with shocks or post shocks or pre shocks. I mean, probably maybe pre shocks actually. He might have spent some time here. So I'm thinking Smiths is a decent lock. But everyone else, look, I excluded some of the names that felt too baity and just put everyone else on the left side. I have no clue. No clue. So the team I've ended up assembling, the 5 I've chosen, is Mixwell, Shock, Smiths, Blame F, Richie. I haven't a solitary clue if any of that is correct. So I've obviously eliminated
Mixwell,
Shocks, Smiths, Blame F, Richie.
Blame F, Richie. All right, so you have eliminated
Searson, Bentet, JW. Because I don't know, man. Like I feel like JW probably played for them before he played for Fnatic, if anything. And in that case, suck a fat one. Like, take your win, strange Swedish man. Like, I don't care. Like,
right. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right, you have actually lucked into 4 correct.
Way.
Or I guess overall you have 6 correct out of the 8. So to go from the top, you have correctly identified that Searson did not play for Epsilon. I put him in there because Keto did. Keto played there for quite a while.
Wouldn't have
and I
known.
just swapped the name. He played like towards the tail end of Epsilon. They had a lot of different European mixes. He actually played over 100 maps for the team. You have also correctly identified that Blame F played here. It's a weird stint, but again, he played over 70 maps. Like this, it's a fairly big tenure in the tier 2 scene, somewhere between heroic and complexity there. Next up, you have incorrectly identified that JW actually did play for Epsilon. Him, Flusha, Snyder, and Devilwalk actually played for Epsilon in 2013 before the major. So they joined Fnatic. I'm not sure if they joined from Epsilon, but that was one of the first Epsilon rosters.
See, there you go. As I said, before they played for Fnatic. Yeah,
yes.
There you go.
Yes. But, yeah. You have also correctly identified that Richie played here. And this one is more like bullshit.
Who hasn't Richie played for? Like, that's the problem.
Yes.
Like, there was a period where he played for every kind of shit tier 3 team. Like, that was just his thing.
But yeah, the Belgian trio of players who are not Scream or Nivera, which is Richie, Simics, and Stevos, they played for Epsilon. In that, and then the same core moved to Tenerife Titans, Lowland Lions, EC Bruges, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, nice. You then also correctly said that Bentet did not play here. Obviously, if you thought Bentet played for Epsilon at home, what are you, stupid? But yeah, I put him in because last time we played this, I had KNG for Red Reserve, and which was supposed to be like an obvious red herring because he did play there, but it just felt so out of place. Right, Mixwell, yes, correct. There was a Spanish Epsilon roster as well with Mixwell.
That felt right. Like,
yeah. Some other names who were on there is Musambani, Alex, Soaker, Arky.
This point means that either Shocks or Smiths didn't play for them. So if Smiths is correct and they did play, I feel kind of like I did okay. But if Shocks is the one who played for them, I mean, I guess I got 1 point out of 2, but it doesn't feel as good.
Shocks did play for Epsilon.
Fuck's sake.
This was an Epsilon roster because there was a French Epsilon roster. I'm sure you are aware of that as well.
Vaguely.
Yeah, Shocks. There's actually been several. He's been there several times. But if we're going through the lineups, I think the notable one is going to be that Scream has been here, Kiyoshima has been here, Shocks has been here, Fixio,
yeah.
also, SF, GMX, Uzi.
Yeah, those kind of
names that might
frogs.
be
Yeah, the
recognized.
early Go sort of era. I forgot that Shoxy, in between getting kicked and politicked out of Very Games and Titan, and then getting added back in through LDLC and Envy, and then getting back on Titan, blah, 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 blah. That said he'd end up on Epsilon for a bit. I couldn't remember which teams it was that he actually played for, because I do remember him obviously being shunned by the French scene for being probably a bit of a tit for a while. But
Possibly, yeah.
this is okay. This is
But Smiths.
love affair with Smiths. Like,
Yes, Smiths did not play here, and I did specifically put him in as a red herring because Shox and Smiths played together so much, where I expected that you would pick him as well.
you know, there's a Queen song that they probably sang to each other. Those who know will know. Don't worry.
Fat bottom girls?
Clearly not. Neither one is a fat bottom girl.
Yeah, there's very few pictures of Shox from behind. But yeah.
Don't worry, you don't need them to understand he's not got a fat dumpy.
Right. Yes, still good job. You got 6 out of 8. Very good, very good job. Epsilon has a very strange roster history. A very strange. So, just to rattle off a couple of the other European names, Brokey was here. It's basically the most experience Brokey had before FaZe.
Honestly, you could have hit me with so
Epsilon.
many players that I would just never have known and had to do completely at random. And most of those were basically random. You could have done the same thing for so many players.
Smooya's been around, Draken's been around, Rez is actually one of their more tenured players.
Actually,
Freddy
some of the
B.
Swedes I would have got. Like, some of the Swedes I feel like I would have got. Like, did Isaac play there?
No.
Really? I feel like
he
he played for someone shit in tier 2, and I thought it was Epsilon.
Played for Lil Mix for a long time.
Oh, that must be it.
And also Game Legion and Prima. Then
It just feels like an Epsilon player, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Crucial, Spellan, Kriya, Smooya, Surreal, Keita was coaching them, Robin was there, Jazar, Oscarish, DJL as a player, Bar, like
very random.
They go, it goes off. If you look at the stand-in players as well, it's even worse. But yeah, Brawlan for 2 maps.
It's just weird. But okay.
Whole thing. Yep.
I do have a game as well. Now, again, I have to warn you up front. If you don't get this one relatively quickly, you have been lobotomized over the last sort of 2 minutes. But okay, quite simple. There's a bunch of players in a bunch of positions. You have 3 lifelines you can use, but each one will negate a point. But you have to guess who the team is just based off the player grades. Now, stream will be able to see what I'm about to put up on screen, but I'll screenshot it for you to show it to you just in our chat. But here we go. Chat, it's going to be so obvious. Do not give it away. I'm sure he will see it immediately. But here are the grades. We do have some all right players. All right.
So, okay.
There you go. There's your selection.
And
these are current grades.
All
Try
right.
to figure out what team this is.
I'll have to open up the ranking.
The ranking? You're going to use external assistance for this?
I don't need. I can skip it.
I mean, I didn't look up Epsilon's rosters.
Fair. All right, I'll skip it. The B+ on the entry is kind of throwing me off because otherwise I'm thinking Vitality. It just feels very easy, but it feels quite low for Flames, if I'm honest. It's not Spirit. They would have an S tier entry.
I don't know what you mean. I think everyone agrees that Chopper is an S tier IGL. Zontix is an S- tier closer. Shiro's an S tier Orca. And hell, Zway's an A support, but realistically, the bum on that team is Donk. I don't know what you mean. Did you watch the last event?
I'll just say Vitality, and I'll say that.
It is Vitality. Yeah, it was as obvious as anything. Now, you could have used your lifelines if you wanted to. Obviously, it would not have been worth it. But the all-time basically means we would have given you all-time grades for each of these players. So you'd get an indication of how they've changed. Flag, you'd have picked a player, and I'd have told you what flag they fly. Not all of them, just one. Yeah. And then
I thought I was going to get like the Europe flag, so I didn't want to go to that because I felt it was useless.
No. And then the core age would be how long this core has been together. and each one of those would have deducted points essentially. But yes, this is the idea of the game. If you didn't get that was vitality, as I said, I would have had to take you out back and shoot you.
Yeah, okay. So just for the sake of, so the all-time here would be, I would guess that you have probably put S on 3 of them still. Honestly, I'm not sure the all-time changes that much. I feel like this is...
They are all currently at their best. It's essentially how we think about vitality. So probably wouldn't have changed that much. Maybe you drop
well, that would also be a clue
Mezzi
because
from
I would
an A to a B.
Yeah.
Like you'd be like, technically Mezzi's got this run and not a whole else to really to show off about it. Like maybe you could argue Rops goes down to an A+. Like this is a far better Rops than some of his other stints. But aside from that, nothing much changes.
And then the flag would have been pretty easy because I would have probably said, like, as long as pretty much anybody I picked there, I would have known. Like, who's another S tier French IGL? Nobody. Yeah, that would have been easy. And the core age would have been 2023-ish when they got Flamesy. All right, nice. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that was the game. Quite simply, just a demo in the end. I was going to prepare a more complicated one, but ran out of time pre-show. But because a part of that game, the nuance or the skill of it is understanding my opinions, which are sometimes violently derogatory. So, you know.
Right, yeah, you could really throw me off by something wild there. I would be, I'm assuming if in a real one of these, you might put like a C tier on somebody who I think is A tier.
Yeah, I'd pick some random Swedish team from like tier 4, give them all D-, and you'd be like, I don't know, because every Swede is an S+. What's going on?
I would be so thrown off if you did like Aurora, because like there's one S tier player, and then the rest could be anywhere between A and D, I think, depending on your mood.
Yeah, but that's the point of the entire exercise. When you said, but Flamesy's a B+. Yeah, because think about the openers game right now. There is one S tier opener because he's leagues above everyone else. It's Dunk.
Oh, okay.
And then you also have like a bunch of guys who are really strong, who are just better than Flamesy, more impactful on winning than Flamesy, listed above him. Like you'd have to think Flamesy, he gets a nice grade. He's not a failing grade sort of player, but he does have to get it. And of course, Zoe does sit as an S tier AWPer because he is technically the AWP role for this roster. I'm not going to start fucking around giving you clues on the roles, like being AWP hybrid superstar S tier. Like, come on. We would just have to put him in his default role and admit that he's S tier if we have to. Like, we're talking about him as the number 2 player in the year at worst. Like, what can I give him?
Yeah.
I can't give him technicality A+ because he has to be the AWPer.
No,
but that's kind of where we're at. But like a more interesting example might have been a Mouse roster, like trying to put grades on them, and you trying to piece together like why the hell is there like 2 C's but this team has an A, and that'd be the point going forward. But all right, we now roll into the Eternal Shuffle. What do you have for me this week?
I have for you the first one, Heroic, who have decided to bench Grix after only 1 month and 17 maps to sign Alcaran on a loan from Spirit.
This can't be anything better than a D. I don't care actually at all how this affects the Counter-Strike played. You just signed this guy, you're going to bench him immediately and sign someone else on loan within this tiny stretch. You fucked something up along the way. You can't get a good grade for this. Now, do I think it'll work? That depends. It depends a lot. If I believe the narrative, the spiel given to me by Heroic, that this is a role-based change, that we didn't like how Grix fit in with the team, the rest of the pieces, and that it wasn't perfectly flush, and we needed a different style of AWPer, this could work. This could be like a B sort of grade move, because I don't think Alcaran's going to outdo himself necessarily on this roster, but I think he could...
No.
He could fit nicely alongside some of the more active riflers. He could be a very steady, sort of passive hand, just not doing a whole lot, but not doing anything wrong. If I don't believe that, and this is more of a, he's a total dickhead, get anyone else in here that we can, then it's probably going to sit at the D to F sort of range, because the Counter-Strike won't change that much, and they've just gotten a less talented AWPer in. So I'm sort of in a bind as to how I actually grade this.
I have no idea about this move. I feel like no matter how poor of a fit a player is inside, the team structure, you don't bench a player, a very sought after player, a very a player who had offers from other top teams, a player who everybody has been talking about for months, if not years at this point. You don't bench him after a month just because there's a stylistic difference. Even if you're like, this is very difficult to work with, this is going to be hard to change, you would give it half a season at least. And we're still some ways out of the major invites. Like, you could have done the Alcaran move in a month even, and I think that would have been more acceptable. There's got to be something underlying here, and there's got to be something deeper than just he opted in a way which we didn't like or it won't work with us.
Yeah.
It's got to be more. It's got to be more that Grix, something is wrong with Grix.
I mean, you said there was some rumor somewhere. Someone was talking about him, like, not showing practice or some other nonsense.
Oh, yeah, this was a post
getting into a
somewhere.
fight with someone. Like, none of that's been substantiated. We can't really address it, but it makes somewhat more sense than just, the playstyle's kind of off after this 2-week period, so screw it, we'll change. Like, that seems less believable.
Yeah, it does feel super weird. So this was under Osni's post, where somebody, I have no idea who this person is. This is not our source, but what they said is attitude problems, skipping practice, visa issues, can't attend tournaments. And then they also added 1v1 youngster in real life. One of these might be the reasons. I don't know.
It sounds like someone's
any of those
speculated entirely. Like, it sounds like it's literally nothing based in fact.
It feels stupid because if it is only stylistic differences, and if it is the visa issues, I can sort of get, maybe that is one of the compounding factors. Like, maybe there's several parts to this, but those two specifically, you should have known before you signed them, and you should have known that before all of this. So that's what makes it seem even more weird, because, like, why would you give him a full contract? Why would you give him a month if you knew that there were signs of this early on? Because, like, you practice with him before you sign the contract. You test him, you talk to him, and, like, the visa issue thing is obvious. He is from Belarus. That's gonna be difficult sometimes for certain locations. But if that is the only factor, then you would have known that. So it's probably not the only factor, and that's what feels weird to me. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe, I guess it's my job to try to get something out of this. Maybe,
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, if we end up talking to somebody there, but I mean, yeah, we'll see. Hopefully something comes out. And I do hope Grix lands on his feet no matter what has happened, honestly, because he's too good to just sit on the bench, which is the second time this year we're saying that about a heroic player.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting silly, isn't it? All right, what's next?
Next up, we have 1win, who have signed Inters. And this is only put in because Inters is like a major semi-finalist, I think he was.
Who's he in for?
Goody? Goody, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think much of Goody. As in, I forgot he existed.
We've thought a bit about Goody before. He's been good before, yeah.
Okay, if you say so, but I've always been more interested in Kronos and Ozic on this team. I thought Latic had some alright play on this team. Like, considering I had problems with Latic before in terms of being overly passive back on VP Prodigy, he's turned his game up a bit on Aurora and 1win.
Yeah.
Inters isn't a terrible move, especially if it means, he's going to be more explicitly supportive. I get to see more of Ozic and Kronos set up to succeed, because those two are, like, the talents of this roster. I think, especially Ozic, actually. Like, I'm trying to remember the POVs I've watched, like, Ozic's pretty good. So, no, I don't mind it as a move overall. Bring a bit more veterancy in. It could work for something. They've not been uber successful over the course of the last sort of year or so. So, yeah, why not try it? B+.
Yep. Inter's Hobbit. Chemistry, perhaps a factor as well. Right. We have another move, which is, I mean, technically this is a new roster entirely, but they have only really made 2 changes because this team was already ranked on VRS with the core they have. And I'm not entirely sure why. I need to find that out. Okay, yeah, no, okay, they have just been playing with Amcal for ages. We're talking about the Amcal roster. What they now have is Idis Balance, Chiron, Nafany, Travis, and Stinix. And the reason why it's sort of a weird move is because unannounced, Idis Balance, Travis, and Stinix have been playing with Amcal for like a month or 2. So that is why.
Yeah, it's It's a weird roster move, like just a weird roster to put together. I'm not impressed. I don't know how else to put it, but I'm not impressed. Never been a big fan of Idis Balance. Honestly, I always thought he was kind of mid, like the definition of just like this tier 2 mid as hell AWPer.
Yes.
Travis, for me, always feels like on a team like almost a wasted player. Like, if I could have a young talent who's unproven but sharp, I'd rather just try him. I'm not a particularly big Nafany fan. Never had a particularly strong opinion about Stinix. I think Chiron had moments, had flashes earlier in his career where I'm like, I 100% want to see more of you. Recently, it's been less and less prevalent. I mean, I've been feeling that feeling less and less strongly. So far on this team, he's played, one map? So we can't really say much. Like, he's played one map in the last month, even with their fake stand-in period. So it's not. I'm not really too moved either way on him yet. I still think he could show it. I mean, if you go back to last sort of season with Roller Coaster, with I think he stood in for Cybershock. That's not much of a match. He had some strong showings, so the talent's probably still there. It's just, is my meager, barely alive belief in Chiron enough to make me excited about this roster? No. So, yeah, not a big fan of this one. This feels uninspired at the surface.
Yeah. I actually don't hate it. I think Travis, Nafany and Chiron are just coming in. They haven't played before, but Travis, Idis Balance, and Stinix are basically there because they are the VRS core, and they basically needed to stay afloat. And with that restriction, I think Nafany and Chiron are fine. Chiron, I think, was ruined by that Virtus Pro stint in a really important.
A lot of the hype, especially, was absolutely
important stage of his career. He got thrown in through like basically a corporate decision where they basically said, "Yeah, we want Chiron instead of Norbert," and the team was like, "No, we don't." But the organization made that move. I think it was Norbert he replaced anyway. Right. But what do you think about Kalash and S Fade 8? Because you've been watching those two a bit when you've been following Molodoy more so than me.
Yeah,
if you contrast Kalash S Fade 8 with Nafany and Chiron, because that's really the change that's been made here.
I mean, it's an improvement, but it's Amcal, as I said on Twitter, they have a reputation to uphold of playing the worst Counter-Strike possible. Mm-hmm. And they will continue to do that, I think, with this roster. Despite, I mean, the Molodoy period was more interesting just because they also had AW, who's got on to be, picked up and people are excited about him. But it's a return to the Travis era, of Counter-Strike, which was just so shite. Like, I don't know why you'd want any part of that to return to your team. So, no, I'm not excited, even though I can try to be optimistic about things like, Chiron and Nafany might be better than specifically Kalash and Sfade. All in all, it feels like they've driven this train off the fucking tracks, down the ravine into a flaming pile of rubble. Like, this is not great.
No. Right, let's move on to this is one. I forget what this. They're only called AM, but they're actually called something. Yes. Achieve Minds, a player agency similar to Prodigy Agency, have made a project similar to the Prodigies, where they basically put together a team of 5 players who's going to work, 5 free agent players in their agency, which is going to work together to play events. And that roster is Sirson, Keto, Altex, Dele, and Too High, with Musambani as the coach.
Ew.
Look, with the prerequisite here that this is just to gain playtime, I feel like that's got to up your grade.
Okay, yeah, credit. You get to keep playing? Like, playing what? Like, they don't have a VRS rank of any note. They're still just going to play open qualities anyway.
273.
Exactly.
Yeah, they have a VRS rank. It's 273.
So they're playing VRS. They're playing open invites anyway. Like, this is... You're asking me about a random fucking pug, essentially. Like, this is... I mean... Keto and Searson, seriously, 2025, I don't have any excitement for. Too High... I mean, he's not exactly been high ranked, but this is, as his name would suggest, Too High. Dele, Altex, I've never been a big Dele guy, like, particularly... And Altex, I think, had moments where I was excited, towards TSM. There was times on and even Sashi had flashes.
Pre-season, he was good. Yeah.
But I've not seen enough of it to be truly excited by this roster. This is literally a mix. Just literally a mixed team that's just going to play stages of events I'm not even going to watch.
I like the project because it's a thing. Yeah, it's gameplay time. You literally couldn't find another team for these guys, so they made this project, and that's good. It's the same reason I like the prodigies. It's the same reason I like that when agencies do this, and it's better than just sitting on a bench or just sitting nowhere. Actually, when you're like this, so yeah, I think could be good for Della 2 High because as much as Keto and Steerson are maybe bad, they're still experienced. They've been around. It's good to be around those players. Musambani as well. I hold pretty highly as a guy, and they have a psychologist as well, which is pretty wild. Who's also worked for some pretty good teams. So yeah. Anyway, Supernova Comets are looking for an org because they were unable to renegotiate their contracts with Supernova Comets, so now they're Shimmer again, which is yeah.
All right, it's a shame because they were good, so surely they should have an org, but it's how it goes sometimes. Hopefully they find someone. There's not much to say.
Yeah, it's no grade. It's just noteworthy. NIP Impact have added Tensky as their coach to replace NATO Suffix.
They go from one seemingly random player to another. I don't have much of a take on NATO Suffix or Tensky's coaching, like beyond that they have coached, or NATO Suffix has coached. Like I don't really have much exposure to them as coaches, so I don't really feel comfortable grading that either. I mean, they're a good team. NIP Impact are a good team. That's cool. The Impact season's going to be very fun next season.
I would say NIP Impact have trended upwards when they were coached by NATO Suffix, just to put that in. Like,
yeah, they also made a bunch of roster moves and constantly got better.
Oh yeah, but that's also part of NATO Suffix's work as coach as well. So it's, it goes both ways. It's
sure.
Yeah. It's like for that okay, solid, good job. But Tensky, I don't have any opinion on Tensky. He's been around. He's a name who exists, as far as I'm concerned. If I'm being honest, even as a player, he was. Where did he peak? Imperial. He won that trophy with Imperial, where Esperanto got the MVP. That's about it.
Yeah, he was on the team.
He was quite literally on the team. He was not one of the. Yeah, he didn't win that event. Esperanto did. All right. Anyway, yeah. That's all the shuffles. We didn't have a lot of shuffles this week. We had we can discuss this. There's a loose rumor from Overdrive that Twists and Elish would swap places. What do you think about this?
Who really wins? Like, I remember...
Twists, probably. No! Honestly, no. He doesn't even win.
Like, he moves up in the scene, but he goes onto a team that now also has even less effective entry work. Like, you don't really win in this move. You're just both swapping variants of grey, like some weird paint dealer. Like,
all else being equal, Twists going back to FaZe would mean going back to the Antwerp roster, but with Frozen instead of Rops. But you're doing it
at the wrong
3
time.
years later. Yeah, you're doing it 3 years later.
That's the problem. Rain is no longer the Rain of then. Like, that's the biggest issue. Yeah. You're not talking about
that just feels
Rain
like
even
when...
vaguely playing well. You're talking about just terrible Rain. Not even I have occasional moments Rain. This isn't worth it for either one of these players.
That feels like late stage Polish Virtus Pro, or like I guess MIBR had these times as well.
No, late stage Polish Virtus Pro is exactly what this feels like. That is entirely correct.
Yeah, and MIBR I think also like they split up, but then they put the old roster back together, like without Coldzera, and at some point. I feel like I remember that. Anyway, it just feels old. It feels old, done. We've tried it before. Why are we doing this?
No, this isn't productive for either player.
Imperial. It's Imperial. It feels like Imperial. When they came back with Fallen for FNX, and I can't remember if Taco was there, but those three at least. It's super weird. Yeah. Anyway, that's the moves. Elise just loses, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, we do end up now with our recurring segment to end the show. It always ends the show. And that is Prospect of the Week. Quirk, I'm going to let you lead off because I realized I haven't actually written mine down. I was in an interesting place of deciding between a couple, so I'll let you lead off.
Yes, I've picked Scrub, and it's not the biggest prospect of the week. I think the biggest prospect of the if I'm gonna pick the biggest prospect of the week, then it would probably be a different player, because Scrub didn't have the best of performances. It's just that he very much exceeded my expectations this week with how he was able to play in Blast Bounty, as we've already said, against strong opposition in a team he's not at all familiar with, at a tier he's never even been close to, which is just impressive to me. So I'm putting Scrub in here. I think he showed good stuff, especially on that map, that overpass map against Complexity. And we've already talked about him quite a bit. It's just rehash. I don't really want to rehash all of that, but yeah, that's a really solid game, and that's really solid stuff. And it's something we don't see that often. We see stints like this where academy players are forced to but they get the opportunity to step in as substitutes in the main team, and most of the time it means a 0.90 rating and it means 2 lost games. But in this case, they managed to win a game. He was, like I said, actually a contributing factor here in that one game, and yeah, that's solid. I feel like Heroic have got a pretty good thing on their hands with this Heroic Academy if Scrub is this kind of player. So yeah, I wouldn't put him in tier 1 tomorrow, but being able to do that once is at least proof that you can do it. You can win a game against Complexity, which that's more than you can say about a lot of the players that the Heroic Academy are playing against. So yeah, TLDR, good job.
It's like we currently have this sort of who is Denmark's next top AWPer contest endlessly, and well, no one's going to win it anytime soon. It's still device by default, and there's no real like emerging talent to just knock him off. So it's interesting to me to watch like lower level Danish teams or lower level teams in general that have Danish AWPers, and just be like, oh, is he actually good? Not sure. Then I see him take a step up, and like, he's not particularly. Or I'll find him and he's fun, but he's got some clear issues. Slime. So I think it's an interesting pick. Like, it's a better showing than you could expect, you're right. But obviously not that crazy, not that dominant. I'm currently picking between a number of players. I don't want to go double Danish. I don't want to give Denmark false hope that they're returning to the top, but I have liked how Cyrus played recently for this ecstatic roster.
He was also really, really, really good in that Liquid game, I feel like. Yeah. I had it on while I was cooking, and I felt the train map, it felt like I was hearing his name all the time.
Well, it's him. Basically, it's his only series this week. Like, he's played 3 maps this week, one of which was this morning against Sangal, I think. Like, from the 10th, never mind. But yeah, like, he's not played a lot. So it'd be extending back 2 weeks roughly to include everything. And it's him, or it would be someone like Tak from G2 Ares, or Adam B from OG. They were kind of the guys I was thinking of. I think it'd be interesting to watch Adam B on this OG roster, see how he's playing, because he's not playing the same way he used to, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I was debating him as well, yeah.
So I'll decide for tomorrow's stream who I'm actually going to profile for myself, if I'm going to fully profile my player, or if I choose to fully profile your pick this week. So tune in tomorrow to grab your free edition of Prospects, basically, with Prospect of the Week. And yeah, that's all for this one. Thank you.
I'll tell you one quick thing about this Danish AWPer thing. I'm looking through like all of the top Danish AWPers, which is top is contentious. Junimi, Device, Nikodos, Lucky, Slime, Scrub, Salazar, Christu. And
pretty bad, yeah.
Scrub has the joint highest sniping number in the profiling thing. So yeah, solid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Right.
Fascinating stuff.
Worth interrupting the wrap up for, I'm sure, in your mind. But anyway, if you enjoyed, leave a like. If you're watching the VOD and made it this far, you're our hero. Please leave a comment saying the word hero, but spell it wrong. I want to see how you can spell it wrong. But yeah.
How the fuck do you... Okay, all right.
That's part... Creativity. I know you don't specialize in it, but...
No, I know, but like how?
Anyway.
Spell the word fish
wrong content.
Hero fish and spell both words wrong.
No one asked. Anyway. Fucking hell. Bye.